we Kiwis have a problem with addiction. We just can't seem to get enough of fast cars, and we're in one of them right now. We're in a Mercedes-AMG A35 4MATIC Sedan. Now this is kind of the gateway drug, I guess you'd say, to AMG, because it's the cheapest. The A35 is the cheapest way into AMGs. This one is $89,700. The hatch is about $3,000 cheaper. This one has been specced up with iridium silver paint and some nice 19-inch wheels and a driver assist package, so it's bumped its price up to $94,000. So quite a lot of money, but then again, you do get quite a lot of Mercedes-AMG. So let's take it for a drive, see what we think. Now the engine in the A35 is an A250 engine, but it's been pumped up somewhat, like by an extra 60 kilowatts more than the A250. So it's a 1991cc inline 4-cylinder engine, direct injection, and it's got a twin scroll turbocharger on it. The outputs are quoted at 225 kilowatts and 400 newton meters of torque. And Mercedes-AMG tell us that those numbers are sufficient to propel this thing from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.7 seconds. Now the motor's paired with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which I have found is pretty good actually. For a dual clutch, it's particularly good at low speed maneuvering around in car parks or on steep little inclines, and that's really the Achilles heels of a lot of dual clutch transmission, is they just can't seem to slip their clutches quite as subtly as you can with your foot. But this thing, no problem whatsoever. It's almost like a regular hydraulic automatic in its low speed creaminess, so yeah, top marks for that. It also delivers quite percussive shifts up the range if you want to. When you want to really drive the car fast, it can deliver quite nice solid gear engagements and give you that really sporty feel. At slow speeds, funny enough, it can sometimes feel a little bit clunky as it drops into a gear, but that might be just this particular example. I'm not sure if that applies to all A35s, but it's not a big deal for sure. It's not a big deal, and I've really actually quite warmed to this transmission. The fact that you engage your modes, you know, park, reverse, neutral and drive from this wand here instead of a lever down here, took a little bit of getting used to. But now that I am used to it, I find it really quite intuitive, because as you're backing, for instance, into a parking spot, and then going forward in that same spot, you can quickly change modes on the transmission just by putting your fingers out and extending them to the lever, so you can dial reverse when you turn to the left and dial drive when you turn to the right. Yeah, took a little bit of getting used to, as I say, but now that I am used to it, really good. Now the 4MATIC part of the naming in the car is a reference to the all-wheel drive system. Generally it's in front-wheel drive mode, this car, but it can put as much as 50% of its torque to the rear axle, and it does it in a predictive way too. It's not entirely reactive in that it waits for the front wheels to slip before it puts in power to the back. It does it in advance of those front wheels slipping. So it takes inputs from your throttle and your steering angle and the vehicle's speed and suspension loadings and things like that, and calculates all those criteria and says, hey, this thing's about to lose traction on the front wheels. Before it does that, I'm going to give some power to the rear wheels. So I've never found it ever wheel spinning, for instance, in front wheel drive mode, because by the time it's about to wheel spin, suddenly it's dialed in the rear and you've got all wheel drive. Now, as I say, it can only put up to 50% to the rear wheel, so it never becomes a rear wheel biased vehicle. It's not, I would say, a lively and entertaining, dancey type car, but I tell you what, it's extremely predictable, extremely competent, and you can trust it to the nth degree, because it just delivers your steering inputs just so faithfully. Now, as part of AMG's fettling of the A35, they've done some work to the A-Class's suspension and steering systems. For the steering, they've given it their own unique steering knuckle design, and for the suspension, they've given it adaptive dampers, but also they've changed the rubber mounting of the suspension, the rubber bushes that mount the suspension to the car, change those out for rigid mounts. And what that does, of course, is it makes the car, you know, stiffer and a bit more predictable in terms of its handling and its reactions to body being loaded up in corners. To help with that that rigidity, they've also added a plate underneath the engine bay just to give the front end a bit more torsional rigidity, because they know this car is going to be driven more aggressively perhaps than most other A classes are going to be driven. And all those AMG Fettlings work really well, of course, as you would expect. But there is a bit of a downside in one aspect. The rigid mounting of the suspension system means that now there's a lot of road roar, I find, that comes into the cockpit when you're driving on our typical rough chip road surfaces. It's not so bad on smooth tarmac that we're on now. We're doing about 100 kilometers an hour on smooth tarmac and it's fine. But if we go on to some rough back road chip, that's 100 kilometers an hour on a typical New Zealand back road. That's loud, really loud. And that's where this car really steps outside the tranquility and calmness that the interior particularly promotes, because it is a beautiful interior. This is a really lovely car, beautifully spec'd, well equipped, immaculately built and presented, of course, as you'd expect for a $90,000 car. But that, to my mind, is largely undone when you drive on a piece of regular road. Now, there's 5 different drive modes you get in the A35, and there's lots of ways of shortcutting access to your favorite settings. You've got this handy rotary controller down here which allows you to dial up through the drive modes really easily, or you can dial up through this central display here. You can access various parts of the drive modes down here with your traction control and your suspension and your gears down here in terms of manual or auto control of the gearbox. Also, you've got shortcuts available to you on the left-hand side of the steering wheel with another couple of shortcut keys where you can adjust things that you want to adjust by configuring those buttons as you'd like. So there's a multitude of ways of accessing all the technology in this car. And believe me, there is a lot of technology in this car. Outside of the drive modes, you've also got a huge amount of infotainment type stuff. Your phone settings, your radio, your maps, your Hey Mercedes voice assistant, voice activated assistant here. I've got her turned off because every time I say Mercedes, she lights up and asks how she can help. And really the only way she can help me is to just not pipe up. But that is quite a good voice activated system which can control a number of features of the car. You can get it to open the sunroof, for instance, if you like. And there's just so many things going on here. You can configure the dashboard to represent instrumentation the way you want it, change the color schemes of the instruments, change the color schemes of the ambient lighting. Some of those personalizations are really easily accessed just by these 2 little black rectangles on the steering wheel spokes here. The one on the right controls the central instrument binnacle right in front of me, and the one on the left controls this other 10.25 inch screen on the left in the middle of the car. And by doing those, you can just sort of scroll around, choose your things that you want and hit the buttons to store them. And it's really, really good. It's really quick to be able to do that. And I found that really quite useful. In fact, I've probably found it more useful than this other trackpad down the middle here with its haptic response. As I say, multiple ways of accessing the huge amount of technology in the car. Well, enough about fancy dashboard layouts and ambient lighting colors. Let's see what it goes like as a back road driver. Now, the car comes with AMG brakes as well, so it's got drilled rotors front and rear and 4-piston monoblock calipers up front. So it's got all the oily bits that you want for a good fun time. So let's put it into Sport Plus mode and see what we get. I'm going to go for manual transmission as well. Okay, it's all down to me. Very responsive gear shifting according to my paddles. Little pop on the overrun there. yes, I can definitely feel the 4MATIC system doing its work. It's not letting me wheel spin out of these very tight corners, even on hard throttle, because there's power already going to the rear axle. Yeah, very faithful in lines. It's not understeering at all. It's not pushing wide at the nose, which you might expect from a little car like this, but oh, it's great. Really nice, really good at holding a line. Very impressive. It's not dramatic. It's not even that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's entertaining. You've got to find the entertainment within yourself, because the car is just doing what you want it to do. It's not contributing anything in the way of, you know, a lively rear end or anything like that. It's just being a faithful servant for what you've asked for. But that's great. I love this little AMG steering wheel. Really nice. I noticed they couldn't bring themselves to colorize this little center marking at the top here. I know they do that on the big brother, the A45, but this one they've delineated the top of the steering wheel, the middle, but they've just left it black. But wow, this is really good. Really good. Really enjoying this. The suspension is in its firmest settings, as I say, but it's not at all a jiggly ride. At these speeds, everything kind of smooths out and it's all very harmonious. Brakes are beautifully modulated, steering's lovely weighting, corners flatly, holds the line accurately. Plenty of power, of course, plenty of in-gear acceleration. Yeah. Lot of fun. And now as we come up behind a horse float, that's kind of stopped play. Now in terms of accommodation, the car is really good. I really like it. It's got plenty of legroom in the back and headroom too, so I can quite comfortably sit behind my own seat setting here on the front. There is a bit of compromise on the footroom in the back seat. There's not a lot of room underneath these front seats, but generally it's pretty nice back there. The boot is actually 420, I think it is, litres, and that's 25% more space than you get in the hatch. So what do we think of the whole sedan versus hatch argument? Let's say the hatch is $3,000 cheaper, but to my mind the sedan is a better fit with the Mercedes badge. I think it's not so try hard, look at me as the hatch is, particularly when the hatch comes with a spoiler on the back of the roof. It really grates with the whole cultured and refined and confident, understated aspects of Mercedes as a brand. And I know it's got AMG attached with it, but even AMG cars are usually pretty understated and unassuming to look at. One thing I think the sedan body does as well, it isolates you a little bit more from the exhaust on this car. Now the exhaust is never particularly loud. It's not a raughty car at all. It's never like a Hyundai i30N or even a Golf R, a VW Golf R, which is this car's natural competitor. It's always very cultured, very well managed and quite, you know, subdued compared to some other cars around. And that's why, again, I think the sedan body sits well with the AMG brand, because it just is confident in its own performance abilities. It doesn't need to shout it in your face. And I think there's quite a few people around who are quite happy to travel the country quickly but not tell the whole world that they're doing it quickly. So for those people, this car would definitely be something worth looking at. So in summary then, the Mercedes-AMG A35 4MATIC Sedan, I think it's great. I like the design of it. I think the interior is just remarkable, funky and refined all at the same time. The driving dynamics are great. It goes fast, it stops fast, it corners well, it's accurate to place, the gearbox is faithful. The only downside is this tyre roar, this tyre roar on rough chip. But as a gateway drug into what is the nirvana of AMG performance, this car is doing a really, really fine job. So I think a lot of people will buy this car as a taster to AMG and really get the bug, and then they want a mainline heroine with a with a higher performance AMG. I think I'm hooked.